Hey there, if you're new to comics or a fan of pop culture, then I think this video will be for you. I'll do my best to give you a quick overview of the Scarlet Witch, as well as reviewing multiple Hasbro figures released based on this character. If you're only interested in the character bios or action figure reviews, then feel free to check the time markers below, but I do hope that you'll watch until the end. Few characters in the Marvel Universe have as troubled a history as Wanda Maximoff, better known as the Scarlet Witch. Introduced by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, whose works include Iron Man, Thor, Doctor Strange, and many others, the Scarlet Witch would appear alongside her brother Quicksilver and her father Magneto as part of the villainous Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. This issue of X-Men number 4 would release in January 1964 and would kick off a powerhouse of a character that would one day have major repercussions in the Marvel Universe. Shortly after battling the X-Men, Wanda and her brother Pietro would change their ways and leave the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants to join Earth's mightiest heroes, the Avengers. It would be there that Wanda would meet her future team member and husband, the Vision. Since Vision is an android, Wanda would use her abilities to become pregnant. She would give birth to twin boys named Billy and Tommy. These twins would one day become heroes in their own right, with abilities that paralleled their mother and Uncle Pietro, respectively. While Wanda was originally written as a mutant and being the daughter of Magneto, her story would be retconned multiple times. Not only is Magneto not her real father, but she is now a character of magical heritage instead of being a mutant. Her original abilities were referred to as hexes or hex magic, with the ability to alter probabilities. Effectively, she could make things happen at random, but these things would be in her or her teammates' favor. However, as time would go on and her story further developed, it would be retconned to explain that her real power is the ability to manipulate chaos magic. This would be in addition to her already magical heritage. With the help of Agatha Harkness, Doctor Strange, and others, the Scarlet Witch would learn to control her already incredible magical resources, as well as learn a gamut of other spells and powers including flight, force fields, teleportation, and even time manipulation. Even with an armory of spells and abilities, Wanda's control of chaos magic puts her above many, since under the right circumstances, she would be able to bend reality to her will. This would make her one of the Avengers' most powerful members, and at one point even a candidate for Sorcerer Supreme. In the 2006 storyline House of M, Wanda would lose control of her reality-altering abilities due to the realization that her children were not real, and create a new reality in which Professor X dies and Magneto comes to power. This would result in mutants becoming the dominant species on the planet. Eventually, the X-Men and Avengers would regain their memories and work together to undo this new reality, but in the process, her brother Pietro would be killed. This would cause Wanda to be so distraught that she would utter the words, "No more mutants," before restoring reality. Upon waking up back to the normal world, the X-Men would be horrified to learn that mutant kind, which once numbered in the possibly millions, was reduced to maybe a few dozen. This comic event would in part inspire the story we see in Disney Plus's Wandavision and would carry over to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Hasbro's Marvel Legends Scarlet Witch. I'm primarily going to be reviewing just the latest releases of the Scarlet Witch, but as you've likely already noticed in the background, I have the previous releases that we can compare to as well. So we'll just get right into it. The first one we'll look at is the West Coast Avengers version of the Scarlet Witch. This is part of the retro line of figures. What makes it retro is the packaging, primarily, since this is very similar to what the 90s version of figures look. Then we have Scarlet Witch from Wandavision, or rather within the series, if you've not watched it yet, they do call her Wanda throughout up until the very end, at which point they actually refer to her as the Scarlet Witch. This one is in the standard Marvel Legends packaging as of its release. They are creating a newer packaging later on. So this is part of the Sam Wilson Captain America Build-A-Figure wave, and Scarlet Witch has one piece of his wings. So let's get these opened up. So first we'll look at the retro wave Scarlet Witch. The body itself, like many of Hasbro's figures, they use pretty much the same mold for everything. This one is no different. We've got these, I don't know how to describe them, some kind of wavy flame. And then we've got these guys, which are very common for a kind of energy manipulation type of accessory for a figure. Otherwise, Wanda looks a lot like her her previous releases outside of a color difference. So if we pull the first release of Wanda, this figure was released as part of the All-Father wave a while back. As you can see, this version has flesh-colored upper top for her, and then the head sculpt is very, very different. You can also see that on this version of Wanda that her gloves go up to her biceps, but they are also not molded in any way. And with this one, they actually are molded gloves. The other big difference with these two figures are their boots. So you can see the first Wanda has these heels, and then current Wanda just has flats. And then comparing to the second release, this was part of a 3-pack along with Quicksilver and Magneto. This one looks like it has a kind of sheen or some kind of metallic material that they used for the plastic on this one. But you can see between this one and the first release that's where they got the new head sculpt. Very, very different. The one on the right is much closer to her Avengers appearance with having the flesh upper part. And this one is much closer to her first appearance in X-Men number 4. Darker hair, darker costume altogether. And then comparing the previous release on the right and the current release right here. So they look exactly the same. Gloves are the same as well. The only difference between these two figures is going to be accessories, which the one on the left just comes with a few more effects, and then color scheme. Otherwise, they're the same. No additional hands. Every Scarlet Witch so far seems to have these same kind of spell casting or reaching hands. If you don't already have a Scarlet Witch and are looking for one, this release is a pretty decent release. And now looking at the Wandavision version of Wanda, this one looks very, very similar to her appearance at the end of the show. What's nice is that this has a textured feel to it. It's not just flat plastic. All of these designs are molded right in. Thing is just painted on. It's molded and then painted. It includes the gloves, everything on the body, this necklace, pants. Every part has nice molded, textured feel, which is great. Some really good posability considering that she has this cape-like thing, so she can bring her legs up almost all the way to her butt on its own. Her arms, even though they only have this single joint, they go a little bit further than 90 degrees, which is a nice touch. Still no ab crunch, but you know, Marvel's Legends figures, female figures generally don't have ab crunch. Not a whole lot of crunch that she can do either, even with this design. It at least allows her to turn, which is still useful for posing. And then in terms of face sculpt, this looks very, very much like Elizabeth Olsen. Hasbro's technology for scanning faces is truly remarkable. So comparing to the first two versions of Marvel Cinematic Universe Scarlet Witch, this version was part of the Abomination wave and came with these two flame effects, which don't hold super well in the hands because the hands are the spell casting hands, and so they don't quite fit. Otherwise, this version is the version that we see in Captain America 3 Civil War. Costume is reasonably accurate to her. If you look closely, this is actually before they have that face scanning technology. So it's kind of just a generic female face on this version. But comparing that to the second version, this is the version that we see in Infinity War and Endgame. Sculpt wise, it's the same exact sculpt. The colors are only a little bit different, marginally different. This one came in a 2-pack with the Vision at Toys R Us. This one is also, the accessories are the flame energy wave things instead of the weird ones. I would say this version is much closer in appearance than this version to the actress, but not nearly as accurate as this version. Really, really nice sculpt overall. All of the textured plastic gives it a nicer quality feel. All the boots are on there. Even though it's all black, they still distinguish that she, was wearing boots. So that's nice. No other hands effects. We even see that they painted on her rings. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any comments, then please feel free to comment below. I'm open to suggestions on these videos, or if you'd like to see anything more specifically about the figures, or what you'd like to see in the next video, then I'd love to hear it.